So I feel like both sides have this like incentive to just fight forever.
So,
And I think it's a really bad incentive that is felt by the international community sometimes. Yeah.
so Destiny, I feel like there's not much ground to explore here because I think we broadly agree. I would just
You agree on expanding on the settlers that we want willingly to do, no matter what?
that's not what he said.
So clarify, please, Stephen.
That the settlers say that. What do you mean by that? Or
No, what you said about the settlers, that's what I meant. Because
I think that Israel enjoys the further expansion and more people moving into the West Bank. Like I think when Oslo 1 was done, I want to say there's like 100,000 settlers. And I think now you guys are up to like 700,000. And I feel like there's two different types of settlers. I feel like you have, this might be offensive, but I call them the fucking crazy people, which are like,
Navik Vot, it's called in Hebrew.
Shiloh. They're the ones that like live out there that are
like in a caravan on the top of the hill.
Maybe, yeah. And then you have like, I feel like the majority of the settlers in the West Bank or Judea and Samaria are like, it's like cheap housing and they're all near the Green Line, which I don't even think the Palestinians care about. Like if you were to renegotiate, you do land swaps or whatever, the majority of them can be kind of like, fine, that land could go to Israel, just give us other concessions or whatever.
Yes,
but
yeah. Can I try to put some context into these broad terms, right?
Sure.
There's about, you're right, there's about 700,000, I think, at least. But almost all of them, like 80 to 90%, are in what you call the
Green Line.
Yeah. So you have like the Gush Etzion, Modi'in Elit, Ma'ale Adumim, places like Ariel. Places like East Jerusalem has like 200,000 Jews, and they're counted also as settlers, right, into that 700,000 figure. So if you're really looking into it, you see that there's about 80 to 90% of the Jews living in Judea and Samaria. The 67 lines are essentially living in the what's called the large settlement blocks. And these blocks have never even been on the table. I mean, even if you go back to the Clinton parameters or the thing with Olmert and, all these deals, these places were never on the table. So I don't, this is not necessarily a blank defense of all settlements, right? Because there are settlements that are illegal, even according to Israel. But you have 80 to 90% of the people living in these huge population blocks who are very close to the Green Lines and that have actually not been Arab cities before. Let's just put it like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's largely fair to say. But how dumb of Israel, knowing that it's this contested territory, to continue to have more and more people. Like the problem is it feels so much more intractable. And then the settlements that are deeper in, they do grow and the outposts do happen and these expand. I wish I remember the name. I think it was the name of the report is of a woman, but there was an investigation under the Sharon government. And I think Ariel Sharon was a huge proponent of we should just completely leave both of these places. When the withdrawal happened in 2005 from the Gaza Strip, there were a few settlements that were taken out of the West Bank, and I think he wanted everything out of the West Bank. But there was still expansion that was going on, and I think like your Bet Salems and people on the left like to blame Sharon. And, they funded all these crazy outposts and settlers. But I think what the report ended up finding was, despite from the top government forces and Sharon and people saying like we're not doing this, like these people that were moving into these like deeper settlements were finding ways to funnel money from the government and to take money from other areas, and they were getting help from other people that were like, yeah, we're going to do this or whatever, but it wasn't like a government driven thing. So it feels like that problem is getting more and more intractable, and what's the off ramp, like, because it feels like both. Like on the Israeli side, I just don't see, it doesn't look like a good faith effort, right? The Palestinians will say, through Oslo 1 into the Second Intifada to now, well, look, the Jewish people, they're not a partner for peace. And I think Israelis can rightfully point back and it's like, Arafat never told you guys to stop blowing each other up and killing us. And, you guys aren't doing anything to make the situation even any better. And I think there's some validity there. But Israel I think Israel has the capacity to force a peace on the region, but it's just, I view Israel as a relatively opportunistic country where if it sees that it can take more, it will keep kind of moving in that direction. That's the feeling I have. Yeah. I feel like the West Bank is a great example of that. Yeah.
Two points that I would like to bring up here. The first one is that you literally brought up of course, the counter example of what happens when you evict settlements in 2005, right? You get essentially, when you leave an area, there is no real interest to keep the army there. And once you live with the army, then you get basically a hostile state right next to you, as a la Gaza. But in addition, I would say that the settlers, growing the settlements or anything like that, you would say it's opportunistic, or it could be viewed as opportunistic. I agree, but really, it's just it could also be viewed as natural growth with a relatively small fraction of insanos, let's say, right? That get a lot of bad press, and maybe justifiably. But I wouldn't say that insisting on holding the settlements is if we look at the history of Israel's decisions, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a bad security take. And